Now that we have created our conversion scales, we have looked at an example standard in PowerSchool. Now we're going to look at the template that PowerSource provides for the Common Core standards. And I have downloaded those from the PowerSource website. And I'm going to go ahead and open the ELA for grades K through 5. And it'll look like this. And you will see each one of these columns will line up with one of those fields in the standard of PowerSchool. So that's where it's getting this information from. So instead of having to make each one separate, we're going to put it into a spreadsheet and then do all the data manipulation here and then import it into PowerSchool. So the one thing that PowerSource on this particular template it has is a grade level. That's something that's going to be taken out before we do the import, but right now it's still in there, so just keep that in mind. It's good to have so you can see what grade level you're working on, but know that you will be taking that out. The second one is the identifier. This is the actual thing that is tied to the standard. You can only have one identifier per standard, and that's what you want to keep, is just one. Then the other thing, here's the name and description. We talked about those. Those are, for me, they're pretty much the same. They contain the same things. If I'm making my own standard, I just duplicate the name in the description because I really don't need it to be any different. The subject area, that's what's going to tie it to the report so that you know it knows which standard to pull from. The type is school. 4 is school. So when we went back and looked at that standard in PowerSchool, it said school, and now this tells me that 4 is the type for that. The level is when you have these in PowerSchool, you've got your different levels. So level 1 is the grade level. Level 2 is the level of the subject. Level 3 is kind of the sub-subject. And then 4 is the actual standard level. The sort order shows what level they are going to show up in PowerSchool in that list view that we saw earlier. And the list parent is one level below the identifier. So here the identifier is a K, so this is going to be a K. It's easy to look at this in a spreadsheet view once you have some of them, the columns put together. The next one is the conversion scale, and you'll see that this is blank because right now this is a blank spreadsheet that just came off of PowerSource, so there's not any conversion scales. It needs to know what your conversion scale number is in order to know what conversion scale that you're using, and I'll show you how to find out what your conversion scale number is. For my allow assignments and include comments, the include comments is always going to be false for me because I don't want to put any comments in. And then allow assignments, some levels are going to be true and some are going to be false. I know that my kindergarten level will not have assignments because it's kindergarten level. It is not the actual standard itself. Language arts is not going to have any assignments tied to it. Reading literature is not going to have any assignments tied to it, but the description or the name of ask and answer questions about key details, that will have standards tied to it or assignments tied to it. So that will be true. So for me on this spreadsheet, everything that is true is going to be white because that's the standard level. If it has a color, it's going to be false. Okay, the next section on here is courses. This is where you're going to mass enter the courses, the numbers that you're going to assign to that. If you've got more than one course for one, like we have a learning lab, so we might have course 4000, and then next to that we might have a 4000 LL. So you can have it show up in 2 separate classes. And there is actually another column here. It is not on the spreadsheet, but it's called unused 1. And that I'll show you in DDA here in a little bit. But in my spreadsheets, I always use this unused 1 for the date that I imported. So I might put today's date as 5/15, or I might just go 5152015. So that's today's date. And I would put that in all of these, this whole column, because that's the date that I've imported it, and it gives me something common to grab it by, so that if I need to go in and redo my standards, I can grab all of them that I imported today if I messed all those up, and I'm able to go put them in. The next section we're going to look at is DDA or DDE, and looking at the standards table, and that'll give you a little bit of insight on some of the backside things you can do with this.